Okay. Reset after negative influence. Hi, I'm CiCi with Wise Woman Evolving and welcome. Thank you for being here this month. And you know, the one thing that I think that I've noticed the most, and we were just chit-chatting about that a little bit before I started the recording, is I think that it may be a lot of the eclipse influences that we're seeing lately. But people in different ways in their lives have noticed different negative influences that are really keep kind of ungrounding them, and they find they're thrown off balance more, and it's a little harder to get back in balance. And so that's what I figured we'd talk about today. And if any of you live want to pop into the chat how you've seen any of that show up in your lives lately, maybe we can add an extra focus on that, or bring that in and see what that looks like. But what I've seen lately is people having difficulty in their relationships and also their finances, difficulty in their relationship to finances. Because a lot of times when we break it down and look at it more closely, they're doing all right, but they seem to have a lot more fear lately, is what I'm seeing. Or it's hard to recover from some of the things they're hearing going on in the economy, the world, or what might come. And we have to remember what might come might also not come, or it may not be as bad as we think. So that's something to keep in mind when we do feel heaviness, heavy influences, a blanket of general anxiety or dread. Thank you for popping that in the chat. I have heard that some, and sometimes we don't recognize where that's coming from. We have this feeling of heaviness, or like this blanket of heaviness overcomes us, but we don't know where it's coming from. It can bring on depression, anxiety, sadness, lethargy, fatigue, a lack of motivation, things like that I've seen lately. And we're not sure where it's coming from. It doesn't feel like us. There's nothing in particular that happened. Some people are experiencing things. The things that people are talking about most lately that I've noticed are finances, fear of having enough. I think some of that comes from a lot of what may be going on in the world right now, or that we're hearing or experiencing or seeing. And what we have to remember is, and I'm sure a lot of y'all have heard me say this so many times, um, what we think about, we bring about. We create our own realities, whether we're conscious of it or not. Sometimes it's from the subconscious or deep, deep, deep down, where we're not even aware of what's going on. And we have to remember too, there are seasons in life. There's an ebb and flow, right? If we're always up here and always happy and always excited and always full of joy, which, I mean, yes, that's what we would love, we won't recognize it necessarily. The nice thing is we can still experience joy through the lows in life. Because if we learn to step outside of our bubble and gain perspective, grab an anchor, so to speak, okay? Have a better picture of where you stand in the moment and stop everything. Just say, okay, world, stop right now. I need to regain my perspective, get my anchor, touch the table, so to speak. You feel like you're floating out there because you're everywhere. You don't know exactly where you are. You don't know exactly how things are going. And yet we can't always put our finger on what's going on. And even when we can, we're not sure why, or we're not sure what the next steps will be. Remember, we don't have to know. What is best is to trust that the universe has your back. And it's really hard because that's where this trust, faith comes in, the hope, but then there's still fear attached to that. And we have to remember, if we center ourselves in our hearts, just drop down into the heart space. Put your focus, put your awareness, in the chest belly area, and that helps automatically bring you down. If you want more tips on how to more quickly, more readily center yourself in your heart, I'm happy to work with you on that. Um, and I've given some suggestions before. You can probably even find a YouTube short or something that I've put on YouTube in the past. I seem to remember talking about dropping the pebble or something like that helping. And I think I did that in a little short that I posted. Um, but really, if you center yourself in your heart, even in the middle of all the chaos, because life brings chaos, we can't stop that. It's the yin and the yang, the black and the white, the day and the night, the light, the dark, right? We don't want to stop that dance because it is a dance. And but if we are able to kind of anchor ourselves in our heart, anchor yourself with the earth, and you can do that by grounding, going outside in nature barefoot. I like doing that as a daily practice as much as possible. There are other ways. And you can get an earthing mat, especially if it's inclement weather and you don't want to go stick your feet in the snow necessarily barefoot. um, so we have to remember, center yourself in your heart, ground yourself, and recognize I am here now. If I'm here now, that means I am meant to be taken care of. My mantra lately, I'll share with you, has been my good is now provided, protected, and maintained. And I let that sit in my heart for a while. I love repeating that to myself, especially in the mornings. My good is now provided, protected, and maintained. And that can mean your health, reducing stress, anxiety, sleeplessness. It can take that away and help you sleep well at night. It can be with relationships, obviously, with career and finances, with knowing what the next step is to take in life. And I think a lot of people are kind of in float around that right now, right? They're in confusion about many things. So I'm going to go back to kind of where I started earlier. What I started to say was a lot of what we're picking up on with feeling this heavy blanket or negativity lately may not be ours. A lot of times you have to ask yourself, if you're feeling something, check in your heart, sit there for a moment and ask yourself, is this mine? Or is it coming from elsewhere? Because it may not be yours. We have to recognize that there is individual consciousness and then there's mass consciousness. A lot of time, mass consciousness is, the world around us, right? And a lot of times, because consciousness is consciousness, we'll find that we're picking up on other people's stuff or what mass consciousness is dictating. We can step outside of that. There are tools and techniques, and I love teaching those with how to recognize, first of all, what is yours and what is not. And you can start by simply asking that question and feel into it. Give it a moment of silence and wait for the answer to come, because the answer will come. It'll be that still, quiet voice or that knowing. And if it's not yours, you can make a command to the universe. I command whatever is not mine to leave now. You can send it back to the light of the Creator. You can just ask it to go away. A lot of times, that's all it takes. Sometimes we need to work on it a little bit more. But recognizing what is yours and what is not is a really good place to start. Sometimes just that clarity of recognizing, hey, wait a minute, that's not mine. I'm picking up on somebody else's energy or maybe from mass consciousness, and it's not mine because I recognize right now I am here and I am well. Therefore, I know I'm provided for. I'm taken care of. I'm protected. The universe has to take care of us. if we're to be alive, right? That means we're going to eat, we're going to have shelter, we're going to have clothes on our back. To what extent often does, well, probably always. I almost never use the word always and never, but I guess I am here. It's that strong though. The, if we're meant to be alive, then we have to be taken care of, period. To what extent depends on our belief systems. If we're always thinking, oh, but I don't know, I can't do that, I can never make things happen in my life, I can never make it, I don't know how I'll ever get ahead, or I'm from a family that we don't get ahead, we struggle. Well, those are belief systems, and you can pop those belief systems. You can discreate them. You created them to begin with. Sometimes it's handed down epigenetically through our lineage, if you will. Um, and sometimes it's ours. A lot of times we form our belief systems based on what we're noticing in life. And our belief systems are pretty set in by the age of 2 or 3, just by observation. Oh, if I cry, I get attention. Um, or somebody will pick me up. And then later on, it might be you wonder why your children are always seeming to need to be fussed at or something, or they're getting themselves in trouble. And a lot of times as parents, we need to step back and go, have I given them the message somehow? Because I ignore their cry, I'm busy, maybe scrolling on the phone or with work or something like that, that the only way they'll get the attention is if they are screaming for help and in trouble or doing something naughty and needing to be corrected, instead of taking just that moment when they're asking for attention and saying, excuse me, world, excuse me, conversation I'm in, whatever it is you're doing, drop it for just a moment and ask what they need. Maybe they want what they want is just to be heard. Maybe they just want to cuddle. That teaches them as they're growing that they don't need to do something to get in trouble to get the attention, but they can just ask for love. Now, here's where it plays into our lives as adults, because most of us here are probably adults. I know the ones on live today are all adults. And so what we want to recognize is, where do my belief systems come from that are causing me to feel like there's only chaos in my life, or only negativity, or only dread? And if that's the case, look at those and remember, you create, whether you're consciously doing it or or subconsciously doing it. You create your reality. So you can ask, one, is that mine? If no, ask it to go away. That's a good start. There are other techniques and tools, and I love working with people in those methods to be able to recreate their lives and create something that they really prefer instead. Um, the other thing is, if yes, it is mine, then ask yourself, what would somebody have to believe to have that experience? And we're asking, what would somebody have to believe, instead of what do I believe? Because when we're asking, what do I believe, often we're a little too close to it and we won't see exactly what it is. We can begin by asking, what belief systems do I have? What do I think about? What do I focus on that would create that? Sometimes we'll get the aha that way. But sometimes we can trick the subconscious and say, what would somebody have to believe in order to have this experience? And you keep asking that question until you get, aha, oh my word. Wow, I had no idea that was there. Often that's enough to pop it and it'll go away. And then what you can do is choose what you would prefer to create instead. What would I prefer to believe? What would I prefer to experience? And then life gets really exciting when you're playing with creating your own reality in that way. Um, so a lot of this dread and waiting for the other shoe to drop. I've heard people talk about that in their lives lately. It's like they're having this struggle in relationship or at work or with finances, and just kind of holding their breath, waiting, when is that other shoe going to drop? But you can ask yourself, what if it never does? Why am I not just living life now? Because life is short. So let's live it to the fullest. Get everything you can out of life. If something happens that's negative or tragic or chaotic or whatever, then we can cross that bridge when we come to it. But to just wait and not be living fully, you're missing out on a whole lot of life, on a whole lot of life. And don't get me wrong, I still do this. I know better. I know better, but I still do this occasionally. And then I'll catch myself and go, wait a minute, that may never come. So stop worrying about it. Worry, fear, go away. When we can get to that space in life, then we can take charge and move forward much more quickly. And then we can allow ourselves to explore the possibilities. We can find that magic that makes things happen. We make things happen. We become the storm. There are a lot. By the way, y'all, I want to take just a moment to acknowledge and ask everyone. Um, and if you're listening to the recording, this may be post storm, but today England is expecting storms. That's why we don't have anybody on here live from England, I'm sure. And expecting a hurricane. That is not something they get. That's not something they're prepared for. Florida's expecting another major hurricane after they just got hit. The Carolinas, Tennessee, Georgia, they got some storms recently. So just send some love and light and some loving thoughts their way. Um, and then if you are so inclined, every day at about 11 a.m. your time, or you can tune in 11 a.m. Central Time in the U.S., just send a little bit of love that way. Groups are starting to do that, and there's a lot of power in numbers. So I think that would be a beautiful thing. Okay. So to get back to the idea of resetting after the negative influence, sometimes we can get the negativity to go away by doing some of what I just shared and recognizing, is it mine? Is it not? Send it away if it's not yours. And sometimes we can just check in and what feels light, what feels heavy, kind of the scales, what feels light, what feels heavy, try to balance that out. But if something is feeling heavy, it's probably that we don't need to be doing it. It's not our responsibility. It's not our pure joy. And find another way. Find something else to focus on instead. Sometimes it's we committed to something. And I'm going to stay here that it's okay to change your mind. We all make commitments and then later feel like, oh, this is just dragging me down. Then it's probably not yours to be doing. And it's not that it's okay to just not show up or not finish that commitment, but it is okay to go in and say, I'm not feeling good about this and I need to change my mind. I apologize. And I will help you find someone else or whatever you can do to make it right, because we do want to take responsibility. If we've made a commitment, yes, we have to take personal responsibility. Sometimes, and we have to recognize, if we're not getting anywhere with it because our heart's not in it, because it's really not meant for us to be doing, then it's not getting accomplished anywhere. It's not fully going to help because that energy isn't behind it. So what we can do is own that and say, I need to back out. I need to change my mind. I'll help you set this up, but this isn't working for me. And there are, sometimes there are other people waiting to step in that they didn't because you did first. And maybe that's their passion. So don't worry too much about that. Some of that really causes a heavy blanket. Sometimes we don't know why we're experiencing this heaviness or dullness or depression or lack of motivation or energy. And it's because it's not ours to be doing. And we may be doing something that we'd be better off doing something different. So find what is your passion. What is your joy? That often brings the mind around and finding the light again. And then, even after we've kind of found the culprit, or even if we cannot find the culprit, we can still clear things out to be able to brighten things for ourselves because we are light. We're light beings. And inside our heart is just this biggest light waiting to shine. Sometimes we can't see it because we've covered it and buried it and protected it and everything else. But what we need to realize is inside there's a tiny spark that if we spend the time in our hearts, just drop down into the heart and spend some time watching that light and sitting with it and feeling what that light feels like inside of our hearts, then we can watch that light expand. And sometimes it's teeny, teeny, and we want to just watch it expand. And you'll notice as you're noticing it, when you see the light expand, you may feel a leap of excitement. Go with it because that can make that light shine bigger and bigger and bigger until we tear down the barriers and just love. We bathe in love for ourselves, for what is good in life. We have to look for the good. Sometimes there's so much negativity going around that we forget to look for what is good. Oh my goodness. Today I had a wonderful cup of coffee. I'm grateful. Today's a rainy day, but it's nice and peaceful. I'm grateful. Find even in the what might seem negative to begin with, there's you've heard of the cloud with the silver lining. There's always a silver lining somewhere. We just have to find it sometimes. Um, but sit in your heart. Really, really go within and spend that time in the heart space watching for that spark. You'll find it. It's there. Everyone has it. Otherwise, we wouldn't be alive. And I mean everyone, even people who are incredibly negative. It's somewhere in there. It is. And when we are willing to see the light that shines in others around us, even people who are very negative or, doing terrible things, if we are willing to look for that light inside of every individual we come across, then we're going to be shining our lights even brighter and affecting those lives and others around them because it's like the pebble dropping in the pool. There's a ripple effect, right? It goes out into their families, their communities, and even further. And that's why I say I am so proud of everyone showing up to do this work for themselves. Because the more we work on ourselves, the more of a ripple effect we have, and the more we're helping precious humanity and all the universes. And so that's way bigger than what we realize. When we recognize that, we can find our own light even more easily. Just thinking about it, just focusing on it, just recognizing it. And of course, there are ways to just, smile, fake it until you make it. Sometimes we feel like, I don't feel like smiling today. But if we put a smile on anyway, and maybe practice this just sitting there, sit at your desk or sit at the dining room table or outside. And if you feel really grumpy or angry, don't dismiss those feelings. Feelings are feelings. They come up because what they want to be felt, recognized, and released. And there are some easy techniques that can readily do that. Of course, we go in layers. Everything is like a layer, like an onion. You peel away layers and layers, but you get there by doing that work. And just release the feelings, recognize it, acknowledge it. Thank you. Thank you for being there. I see you. Is there anything else you need? And let it go. But you can sit there and recognize, even in the negativity, even if what if there's a negative influence around us that's someone else being that wet blanket, and we may not even know them or know it or see it, but we feel something, and it kind of pervades everything. It's like walking down the grocery store aisle and feeling a heaviness when some people pass by, and you recognize, oh, that's not mine. And yeah, we can kind of put a shield up toward the negativity. That's helpful. I'll give you another hint. If you're speaking with someone, or you're in a conversation or interacting with someone, and you feel a lot of negativity and you don't want to take it on as your own, you can obviously cross your arms. I don't know if you can tell I'm crossing my arms. Because putting your arms across your chest will guard the heart. Not that we want to guard too much, but sometimes we need to. And the other thing is, look with your left eye to their left eye. Don't focus straight on. Don't focus on their right eye. Don't use your right eye. Look left eye to left eye. And then the negativity can't come across to you so easily. That's just a little tidbit for in the moment type things. But sometimes, again, we don't know where this feeling comes from. Or sometimes we do, because we're looking at our bills or our statements and going, how am I going to make ends meet? Groceries got too expensive. Utilities went up, et cetera, right? It can be scary. But if we sit in our heart and say, okay, I'm going to find a way. I'm making a way. And just put that out there. When we do that, the universe has to show up. Also, remember, if there's a void, it has to be filled. It cannot remain a void. So if you've got how am I going to get my hand in there? If you've got a cup of water and the water's in there and you drink it down, you're going to go fill it back up, right? Same thing in the universe. If you've got your little coin purse of money, and you're paying and paying and paying bills, and bills they're growing bigger, and you're going, oh my gosh, how are we going to make ends meet now? Things have gotten more expensive. As that coin purse empties, remember, or the checkbook or whatever it is, however you're paying your bills, remember, okay, there's a void. I see it. Instead of focusing on the fear or anxiety about the future, remember there is only the now. Remember to look at it and say, there's a void. I know it's going to fill up soon. And just let it go. You have to put it out there. It's kind of making a command to the universe. Put it out there and let it go. And it might be just in the nick of time. Usually these things do come just in the nick of time, but it will come. As long as you're not focusing on the worry, the fear, the anxiety. And, the saying is, there's nothing to fear but fear itself. So think about that for a moment. That's when we stop and hear that, we think, well, easier said than done, right? But if we know, of course, we don't know our timing when it's our time to go. When it is, it is. Until then, we have to be taken care of. So we don't know that timing, but all we can do is live in the now. When we live in the present moment, we recognize, what do I have to lose? Really, what do you have to lose? I mean, if you think about it, well, I could get my car repossessed or lose my house or get foreclosed on or have to go bankrupt, etc. Stop and think about those. Those are huge things, right? I'm trying to pull out the big things in life because those are scary. But stop and think about that. One of the biggest fears, oh my gosh, I'm going to lose my house. I'm going to lose everything. First, it usually takes a few years to go through the foreclosure process. Okay. Something will usually come up in the meantime. Maybe it's meant for you to go move to another house that you might enjoy even more. And thank you. Take care. It was good having you. Um, and sometimes we have to realize that even if what we think of as the worst thing that could happen happens, how bad is that really? Were we miserable in that home? Or did we keep saying, oh, this car, I can't stand it. I wish I could have a new car. We create our own reality. Be careful what you say and think. But is it really that bad if those things happen? What would happen? We'd start over. We'd get a clean slate and start over. And again, if there's a void, it has to be filled. So we can move forward without fear. When we're better able to do that and just decide. How do you take away fear? Sometimes that's real scary and it's crushing. But if you just decide, I am determined, I'm going to move forward. What do I have to lose now? Then you take that next step and that next step. And then opportunities will show up for you. Opportunities will come across your path because you were doggone determined to just make something happen. And sometimes it's sheer determination that does that. And then we start to see the light at the end of the tunnel. Opportunities come our way, gifts come our way, contributions come our way. Somebody says, a neighbor says, hey, I'm getting rid of this bed. Do you know anybody who needs a new bed? It's in great condition, but my kids are no longer using it or something. And maybe that's exactly what you were needing and wondering, how am I going to get my toddler a new bed? They're growing. You never know where these gifts are going to come from. But if there's a void, it's going to have to be filled. And so we have to let the dread, the anxiety, the depression, it's easier said than done sometimes. We have to let it go. Obviously, the work that I do one-on-one with people or in groups, we do work on that in very powerful ways. But if you're only watching this video and that's the extent of what you can do right now, then these little tidbits hopefully will sink down into your heart and you'll start to find those ways. You can find your way out. And it's often a matter of just being determined. I'm not going to live in fear anymore. I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to sit waiting for the other shoe to drop. I'm just going to forge ahead. I'm going to find a way. And even if it's in relationships, excuse me, I need a sip. Even if it's in relationships, sometimes we feel stuck or we feel like something isn't right. We're not comfortable with it. Something's off. We're not communicating very well. It could be personal relationships at home, at work, with family, with your spouse. It doesn't matter. We can even take all of this information and say, you know what? I'm tired of sitting in this mud puddle right now. Something's got to give. And so you begin to have conversations. Are we scared to? Yes. Have heart-centered conversations. You cannot control how the other person is going to respond or react or how they feel or what they're going to say. But if you go into it with love and you let go of the attachment to an outcome, then in the end, what happens is for your best and highest good. And that can be applied to anything, not just the relationships or conversations. You can go into, say, if finances are your wet blanket right now, you can sit with your finances, you can make a budget, and you can say, I love you. Thank you. Thank you for my abundance. And you'd be surprised what kind of magic starts happening in your financial life or your relationships, your career, and any and every area of life, your health. So, what I'm seeing coming up now is we're going to do a little mini session here. And we're going to the heart space, and opening that up a little bit. The heart is where we have a deep knowing, it's where we process and synthesize, right? And so we're going from the heart and we're going to um, the brain. We're going to go to the lateral posterior section of the brain. That has to do with discussion, but it also has to do with seeing things from a different perspective. And, excuse me, oh, I'm dry. If we link the heart and that section of the brain, we can bring in more ability to be able to go deeper within and see, is there another perspective? What else about this situation do I need to see? What other information can I glean from this to know what the next steps are, what the causes are, what a remedy would be, you know? And we can look at it. It's like taking well, I'll use this. This is kind of not as 3D as I would like. I don't know where my tissue box got to, but oh, wait, here, I'm gonna use this. So I'm packing to move, y'all. This is it has different dimensions, right? Sometimes I take a tissue box and I do this exercise and I look at it and I turn it around, but you can pick up anything you have, a ball, an ink pen, even a piece of paper, that's flat, but pick up an object and look at it for a while and notice what you notice. Oh, I notice a couple of little specks here. I notice the torn paper here from the label having been on the packing tape. Oh, the packing tape is shiny and it's coated over a background of a paper roll that has these pretty argyle patterns and a brand. I probably shouldn't be sewing this. I don't know because I don't know what YouTube will say, but you get my drift. And oh, it's got some sharp teeth here for cutting the tape. The color's red. I wonder what this tongue does. You start to notice all aspects of this roll of tape or the box of tissue or the pen or the paper, whatever it is you pick up and look. Look at that. And I mean, take some time to dive in. You might sit there staring at it for an hour and you keep turning it around and you look inside. Is there anything else I'm not seeing? Oh, I'm noticing for the first time. Here's perspective. There's a tiny little, I don't know if you can see it on the camera, but there's a tiny little hole in the middle of the plate that cuts the tape. You just keep looking at that and you go quiet and you gain perspective. And when you've really gotten the mind quiet through that exercise, you set that object down and then ask yourself, what is it? Okay, what do you want to work on right now? A toothache? What's causing it? I've been having this toothache for months. The dentist can't figure anything out, etc. What's going on? And you look and look and look. Or you know what? Actually, I'm going to back up a little bit here because I've actually had this happen where I had something happen with my health and I could not figure what was going on. And I did this exercise to gain perspective because I was having dread about it. I thought, is my life going to be like this for the rest of my life? And I did this exercise and I put the tissue box down or whatever object, and I was real quiet. And then I went within and asked myself, what is going on? What do I feel? What is causing this? I don't remember what health experience it was or health issue it was. This was a lot of years ago. What is causing that? And I'd stay quiet and I'd look at everything. I'd listen to everything that came in my mind. I'd really study it. I'd just take time. I set aside a few hours of quiet time for myself to do this. You can do this in 20 minutes sometimes, but I really needed to go deep on this. What is causing this? Is it this? Is it that? And I finally got an aha, and my teeth came up. And I thought, this is interesting. It didn't seem related. You know, what I know now is how we do one thing is how we do everything, and everything in the body is obviously connected. The health issue at the time had, I mean, who would have put teeth with it is what I was thinking. Like, that doesn't make sense. But I thought I was getting that so strongly that I thought, well, there's a message there. I went to the dentist. They found an issue with my tooth, fixed it, and the health issue went away. We can do this with anything in life, whether it's health related, and I've specialized for many years in chronic and autoimmune issues, and I'm here to tell you this stuff works. Get to the bottom, gain perspective. Gain perspective. Sometimes that's enough to make everything pop, and then life changes and we're all good again. Boy, we can keep moving on. That negative influence feels like it's lifted, right? Or we might need to follow through, whether it's something that pops in our mind. Oh, wait, I can still cut this out of the budget. I forgot that I was still paying on some subscription that's really expensive that I don't use anymore. Or if it's with work, wait, you know what? I just thought of a better way to do something at work. And that one little thing might make you love going to work from now on. You never know. And then what can we do to recover from some of this negativity? Because I want to give you some practical steps too. In different stages, right? So to recover from some of this, sometimes just by asking ourselves to go back to the beginning, is this even mine? If it's not, and you recognize that, sometimes that's all it does to pop that bubble, and then you're good. If it's yours, we can go deeper, feel those feelings, gain perspective, ask ourselves, what am I missing? And we can work from there. We can go within the heart. We can watch that light shine. I'm going to say that's one of the best ways to do it. Right now, we have had the eclipses. We've had a major lunar and solar eclipse recently. This is fall in the United States or in the Northern Hemisphere. So you'd be going into spring in the Southern Hemisphere. And y'all, I just lost my train of thought. I guess that happens to us all. But when we gain that perspective, we can choose to move on. We can go within. Sometimes and you know, maybe what I needed to bring up was the idea that life has seasons too. Yes, we go through the 4 seasons with the earth. And in Chinese medicine, we have the 5 elements. So there's always this flow, right? And there are ups and downs. There's quiet time in the winter. And then in summer, we're busy, 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 right? And everything's blooming and busy. Life is happening. But inside, it's the same thing. So sometimes when we have these feelings that kind of feel like it's a negative influence, it means it's time for us to go within and explore and just be with ourselves for a little while. Visit your own soul, so to speak. And that can often be enough to bring us out and recognize, okay, now I'm ready to go back to life, right? But go within. I think I'm going to leave it there. That's the biggest key. Go within and find that spark inside your heart, because that alone can dissolve a lot of the heaviness, a lot of the negativity. And if it's mass consciousness having that effect, or the eclipses or anything like that, we can remind ourselves, go out and get a little bit of sunshine, fresh air. Even if it's cloudy, rainy, snowy, you can sit outside for a little while and get some fresh air, or watch the snow fall from inside. Just watch it for a little while and feel the warmth of the sun coming through the window. I used to live in Alaska, and some days that was the best we could do, was sit in front of the window when the sun would shine. And the sun didn't always shine in winter. It was pretty gloomy sometimes. But when it did, it felt so wonderful and so healing. So find those little things that feel welcoming and cozy and comfortable or fun to you, and do that. Do a little bit as often as you can. If there's a festival, go attend the festival. If there's a group gathering, and you often go, oh no, that's late for me. And I'm saying that because I'm the one who says, oh, that's late for me. Sometimes it's a matter of get up and go anyway. Go have some fun. But go within, find that space in your heart, find the light inside your heart. If it takes a little while, that's okay. I promise you it's there. You wouldn't be here. Any questions before we close, you can pop them in the chat, and I would be more than happy to answer those on the video. And if you'd rather wait until after, for those of you that are live, we can do that as well. I'm going to give it just a moment. What we'll do while we're waiting for that is I'm going to go back to the formula with the part of the brain that has to do with like discussions and finding perspective, and linking that to the heart space concept of finding the light, being the light. And then we're going to link that to the gut brain as well, because that's going to be at the solar plexus area, more how we put ourselves out into the world, right? And sometimes just by getting out into the world, it brightens our inner being. Let me see if there's anything else coming up. Shoulders are showing up. Heart protection. Sometimes we tend to do this and we're protecting ourselves, guarding the heart. Shoulders are coming up. So that's as well linked to heart protection. We look at pericardium, small intestine. So yeah, we're linking that heart and gut brain there, as well as that section in the brain in the thalamus. It has to do with perspective. Okay. And we're going to tap out, y'all. Most of y'all who have been with me for a while know how to do this. For those of you that don't, just take a couple deep breaths in and out, and go ahead and tap. Pretend there's a center part here, and tap on both sides while you're breathing deeply in and out. And then over the heart, anywhere over the chest is fine. And then over the upper abdomen. You can tap this in for the next few days. Just imagine tapping. Take the deep breaths in and out, and tap head, heart, and belly. And in your mind, think of the concept: I'm tapping out to my formula, which is the formula we just created together. And do that over the next few days, and I think you'll find some big shifts. So with that, I want to thank y'all for being here, both live and for joining me if you're joining me in the replay or on YouTube. If you need to contact me, my information is below. You can always reach out to me at info@wisewomanivolving.com.